Right as the new year started, we got news from the Consumer Electronics Show that Peter Stormare had announced that the Until Dawn movie is in no way an adaptation of Until Dawn. Polygon wrote an article about it, but I didn't bother making a video because I'd just be announcing that we didn't know anything, which is a weird thing to do. Like, when Supermassive puts out a New Year's teaser image, at least they put out an image. They don't put out a statement saying, Directive 8020 is not about going to Mars. Anyway, point is, we now know what the Until Dawn movie is, and... So, we're going to break down the teaser first look thing, but before we do, I want to preface this by saying, I don't know anything about the movie. I haven't seen it. I haven't read a script, although if someone wants to anonymously send me one, I'll protect your anonymity. So I can't speak to what it's going to be. But man, am I going in skeptical, because if you didn't want to make an Until Dawn movie, why didn't you just not make an Until Dawn movie? Okay, let's dig in.
As a huge fan of the Until Dawn game and how cinematic it was.
Good to know you claim to be a fan. Weird that you talk about how cinematic it was, and then the next shot shows that the movie isn't even set during winter. Like, the one thing that people should know about Until Dawn is that it's winter horror, and most of why it looks so good is the icy setting right down to the cold blue filter. But, sorry, I interrupted you while you were saying your first sentence. Please continue.
As a huge fan of the Until Dawn game and how cinematic it was, I thought a lot about how we can continue the story without just giving the audience the same experience that they got when they were playing.
Continue is a really weird thing to say. I guess this means that this Until Dawn is going to be set in the world of Until Dawn, and Peter Stormare will be playing the same character? Which is kind of an absolutely absurd thing to do. There's nothing about the game that suggests that it's set in a larger world of spooky horror happenings. People find out Wendigos are real. It goes badly for them. That's it. It's a beautifully simple premise, and the last thing it needs is also 16 other kinds of ghosts are real, and here's a government agency that's investigating them. Obviously, that's not the plot of the movie, but we've already got a Conjuring franchise doing a bad job at making horror movies, and we don't need a second Conjuring franchise. Well, it would never be the same experience because they're not playing a game. More importantly, though, for a guy who's one of the writers of the movie, it's weird that you're focused on the cinematic qualities of Until Dawn rather than the story, which is its greatest strength. I like the stylization too, buddy, but I'm here for the characters and the story. I have, at this point, devoted an entire YouTube channel to the characters and the story. And if you're not a fan of those, why would you be interested in adapting Until Dawn? When they made the Uncharted movie, they didn't make it about wholly unrelated characters having an adventure in Denmark and then Sully's briefly in one scene. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. How dare they insult us by referencing the best cover art in the history of video games while in no way featuring it?
The movie has sort of the same tone and the same vibe, but it expands upon the universe.
Apparently the movie has the same tone and vibe, but expands the universe? Again, I know that they're trying to do their own Conjuring franchise here. This is literally being made by people who worked on Annabelle movies, which is my opportunity to say that my favorite piece of trivia about that. The real Annabelle doll is just a Raggedy Ann doll, the kind you'd see in any house with kids from the 50s and 60s. It's just creepy for some reason. The point is, it's clear what they're doing here, and I'm not sure I understand why just yet. And none of the footage we've seen has suggested a similar tone and vibe to the game.
I'm very proud to be part of this evolution onto a screen.
It's nice that Peter Stormare is happy to come back, presumably as the same character, even though he's wearing a vest and baseball cap. I don't know, maybe he's on vacation. It's weird to think of the movies as an evolution from video games. Like, sorry bro, but video games are the more advanced storytelling art form. This is a devolution. It's a devolution with a chance to make more money, but it's less evolved by definition. You know how we describe Until Dawn as an interactive movie? The word before movie, that's the evolution.
One of the creative things the game did is that people make different choices and die in different ways. The movie has this mechanic where things start over and they get to try again.
So yeah, it's a time loop movie, apparently. And it's kind of super weird to use the game as a justification for this. Because while the player gets to do things differently and get different outcomes, the characters don't. To them, it just happens. For us, there are variables. That's not to say that you can't tell a good movie or video game story about trying to break death loops. People enjoy Happy Death Day. Obviously, Groundhog Day is seminal, and in video games, Shadow of Memories is one of my all-time favorite takes on the premise. But it's a completely different kind of story than we saw in Until Dawn, because by its very nature, it's going to be a postmodern experience. The characters are going to essentially know that they're in a horror game, and that they're going to be playing reality. That's what happens in Escape the Deathloop movies. And again, it has nothing to do with Until Dawn or the experience of Until Dawn.
What just happened?
Every time they come back to life, it's like they're in a new horror genre.
A new horror genre every time? Yeah, there's no way that's true. Although, hey, maybe I'm wrong and they're basically just doing a Deathloop version of Cabin in the Woods, and every kind of monster will be in that house.
To survive, they have to make it until dawn.
Apparently the trailer is coming soon. Good? Seriously though, I'm not sure what purpose this movie is supposed to serve exactly. Okay, that's not entirely true. It's supposed to kick off a franchise of Conjuring-style horror movies that Sony Pictures will own. The Conjuring is the most successful horror franchise ever, so I get doing that. But what confuses me is why they're calling it Until Dawn while not adapting Until Dawn. Because here's the thing. A straight adaptation of Until Dawn would have been a perfectly good movie. Yeah, you wouldn't have had the 3 iconic performances that bring the game to life, but there's plenty of good actors out there you can cast in the parts and wow audiences. Then, if you were smart, you'd shoot an inpatient adaptation at the same time or right after to hit people with a prequel that expands on the story people loved in the first one. You'd think the people who made Annabelle Creation would see the value in that, wouldn't you? But instead, we're getting a Deathloop movie about people who go to some kind of a small museum and get cursed by a clock? I'm sure that's not the actual plot, of course. We'll have to wait until the trailer for that. But my point is, you already had a great premise that has proven fans. I hate to keep saying it, but the Uncharted movie was about recognizable characters from Uncharted that people liked. There's not a single element in this teaser that is recognizable as something that people remember or liked from Until Dawn. It's not even set in the winter. Yes, obviously Peter Stormare is there, maybe playing the same character, but it's in such a new context that if you weren't told that he was Dr. Hill, based on the image, would you have guessed that he was? If they didn't put the words Until Dawn on screen and you watched all of this footage, would you have made any connection to the game? Of course not, because this couldn't look less like Until Dawn if it tried to.
To survive, they have to make it until dawn.
And don't say survive until dawn like that's some big connection to the game. Every horror movie is about surviving until dawn. Now, that's not literally true, but it's weirdly close to being literally true. Now, let's close with checking out some details from the teaser. Apparently the movie was filmed in Hungary because it's comparatively cheap to film in fascist police states. The museum, or welcome center, looks pretty cute. I wonder if it was built for the film. I can't see a boat in the window without thinking about my beloved curator. Note the stanchion and rope blocking off access to that model. I wonder what it's a model of with all those towers. These are definitely old mining tools. Can we expect a reference to the mine on Blackwood Peak? And is that a model of the old mine? And they're here to do a tour of it? Oh god, are we getting another Mind Games? Sorry, I just really didn't like Mind Games. Dear Sony, please make and sell me an Until Dawn hourglass. Thank you for your time. I guess the skull at the bottom is supposed to remind us of the top of the hourglass? Not good enough. Bingo cards! People love bingo, famously. So they're already on a missing persons picture? How long do they get trapped in this loop? If this area code is to be believed, the movie might be set in northeastern Iowa. That's a bunch of creepy masks, and this stringy-haired woman is using a gas mask to gas the other woman, like Josh in his tank of sedative. The real question is, who is this lady? Is it one of them trapped in the loop so long that they're now elderly? Are we going triangle by way of hypercube here? There's certainly worse things to reference than Halloween. And now we've got a lanky figure creeping up on them. The old lady again? Is that a claw or weapon in the shadow there? We've only got a couple of frames and it's pretty hard to tell. Obviously, I hope this turns out to be a good movie. I prefer watching good movies to watching bad ones. That's why I mostly just watch the movies Zodiac and Mister over and over again. What I still don't understand is why they didn't just make the good movie they already had. And if they want to use that to kick off a franchise, you can do that and then do your Deathloop movie later on. But to water down the Until Dawn brand by associating with something that profoundly isn't Until Dawn seems like a questionable choice, especially since it looks like there's a sequel game in the works, which again, I'm available to consult on, Sony. Just ring me up. We're obviously going to have a lot more to talk about when we see a trailer, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. But until then, I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more of those buttons coming up to help with that, questions, comments, your thoughts on the Until Dawn first look, go down in the comments section below the video. Play my game, Clown in the Woods, to have fun with something that has as much right to be called Until Dawn as this movie does, as far as I can tell. We'll see you back here for more Until Dawn videos. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.